Hi, and welcome to Tune In with Talya. I would like to welcome a very beautiful, special, talented singer, and her name is Minda Larson. Welcome to the show, Minda.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for putting this platform together for all of us unemployed artists right now.
I
It's so
know.
fun to be here with you.
So nice to see you and have you share with us this evening. We're excited to get to know you better and for our listeners to know who you are and hear your music. So thank
Oh,
you for coming
thank
on
you.
the show.
Well, from a fellow singer to a fellow singer, we have a really similar background too,
I
I
know.
think.
And I just love your voice. Uh,
Oh, I love yours. All your jazz stuff that you've been putting up on Facebook is
Aw.
amazing. You need to keep doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been helping me so much deal with everything. Just
I
public
know.
singing and putting stuff out there and lifting people and lifting. It's all a good thing, right? The more music we can do during this time.
Yeah, well, you have to get your creative juices out.
Totally.
I read a quote from Brene Brown, and it's really struck me. She said that unused creativity is not benign. And I love that because it's like, if you don't, as a creative artist or anyone that feels any sort of creative impulse, if you don't express that in some way, that it actually comes back to haunt you as like, sadness or depression or anger or bitterness or all those things, like all the emotions that we've been going through. So
It's a great quote.
yeah, it's great. So you have to get it out, whether or not it's being on the stage like we're used to, or writing, or
Yes.
drawing, or dancing around, whatever, you
And
have to
I
get
know
it
that
out somehow.
you've done even like a show from your driveway, right?
I
Or
did. It's crazy. It was a year ago. It was an Easter concert. And I was at my sister's house in North Carolina because my husband and I went there during the beginning of the pandemic. And I did a driveway concert.
oh,
And now I'm
how
thinking
that
like, wow,
touched
that
you
was
all.
almost a year ago.
And I feel like since then it's kind of been a trend. People have been doing that.
I know. I was one of the OG driveway concerts, though, I
I
think.
know.
It was like beginning of April or something. Maybe end of March. I don't remember when it was, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's fun. That's great. So
Yeah.
anyway, I have to thank Charles for introducing us. We have a mutual friend.
Yes. Who was
Yeah.
on your show, I
He was
believe.
on our show. Yes, he was on the show a little bit while ago, and he introduced me to you, and he brought you to my synagogue on Long Island, and you performed a little cabaret night for us. It was so much fun.
Which was so much fun, and the audience was so warm and receptive and wonderful. It was
Oh,
so much fun.
even
So
loved
thank
it.
you for having
So
me.
I'm excited to have you come back for this little show for my community and my network of friends and
Yes.
show
Hello,
you off a little
everybody.
bit.
Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell everyone a little bit about you.
Okay.
You are an actor. Minda Larson is an actor, singer, a voice teacher in New York City with nearly 20 years' experience as a professional singer and actor. Recent television credits include FBI Most Wanted on CBS, Gotham Fox, and The Deuce HBO, and Minda has sung with the New York Philharmonic in the show Carousel and made her Carnegie Hall solo debut in 2019. Her award winning original cabaret shows have been seen across the country in jazz and music festivals and headliner on all major cruise lines. She has traveled to over 80 countries performing her original one woman shows. That's awesome. Minna's voice students can be seen on Broadway in Frozen, A Bronx Tale, Harry Potter, Caroline or Change, The Ferryman, and in numerous off Broadway productions. She is passionate about working with students, not just on technique, but the healthy pursuit of a career in the arts. She is a frequent contributor to Classical Singer magazine and speaks at universities all across the country. Minda holds a master's degree in vocal performance, classical voice, from the Manhattan School of Music. Such an awesome
The
bio.
marketing jargon. I love
Incredible
it.
background, really.
Thank you.
And I went to that school for masters, so we have that in common too. We have a lot
Oh,
of
you did? Wait, I thought you went to Juilliard. Or you went to Juilliard?
Juilliard for undergrad.
Okay.
I went for my master's at MSN.
I think I've told you Juilliard was my dream school, but I didn't get in, right?
No, you didn't tell
So
me.
I didn't. So we'll talk about that later. So that's so amazing. Yeah.
So yeah, so you've had quite the incredible career and 80 countries? You've seriously been to 80 countries? That's wow.
Yeah. Yes, I
Wow.
have. Yeah.
Sharing your art with the world. How awesome.
That was a dream job. I did that. I worked on cruise ships. I obviously no one's working on cruise ships right now, but I've been doing that for many years. But when I was first out of school, that was one of my first gigs, and I traveled. I would go away for 6 months at a time, and the ship I worked for was an English cruise ship, and we never came to a U.S. port. So we would only do these world tours, and it was a tiny, really exclusive ship. So it was this awesome, awesome gig.
That sounds like a dream.
It was a dream. Yes, I'm thankful for that. And I actually went to all those countries before I was even 30 years old. So now, of course, when I look back at like my life and career, I'm like, I'm so grateful that I was able to do that, because who knows, at the time I was like, oh, I probably stayed too long on those ships. I probably should have come back to New York sooner. But now I'm like, no, I'm so glad I saw the world the way I did.
Yes, because who knows how long we will go back to any sort of normal.
Right. And the world has changed too. I mean, even in recent travel with like iPhones and everything, like the world looks different than it did. Yeah. It's looking more and more the same, sadly. So when I went, it was before, like I had to go to internet cafes still, so yeah. I didn't even have a cell phone, which is so crazy. But with all of that, which is, we're also thankful for it now, but still it makes the world a little bit, it's different. So yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your growing up, your upbringing. So what was
so I grew up I grew up in Florida, in Jacksonville, Florida, and I grew up to a very musical artistic family. They had no idea what to do with me. My mother stayed at home, and my father was a golf course architect. So very cool job. But so anyway, I grew up in Florida, and I really, really wanted to be an artist, but I had no real exposure to it, being from a small town, especially before the internet. And I remember it wasn't until 7th grade that I saw a Broadway musical. I saw it on tour. It was The Secret Garden. And my mom took me, and I had like told everybody in my class, like I was going to do this. And I remember I went and I was watching it, and I saw people singing and acting on stage. And I said to my mother at intermission, I didn't even know this existed. Why didn't you tell me that this existed? And then I went back to school the next day, and my teacher was like, so how was it? And I was like, my life has changed forever. Wow. And that's truly how I feel, because I really, being they didn't know. And I have 2 sisters, and like, they were busy. They didn't know. But it wasn't until I was like 14 years old. I was like, that's it. I didn't know that was a profession, that you could do that. Wow. Which is so crazy now, because kids can see everything on YouTube. But think about it. I was 14 years old. I didn't even know that like Broadway existed.
Wow. You were just in this little bubble.
Yeah.
Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And that nobody else in your family.
Right. And that's, in teaching students right now, I see that. Like, it's such you don't want to say an advantage, but truly, like, if your parents are musicians or actors or artists, like they know the world a little better than if they're architects. They just, not that my parents weren't willing to help me and support me. They just didn't know.
Right.
It was a new world,
So that turned you on completely, seeing that show.
Turned me on, yes.
And you were inspired. So that inspired you. Who did somebody specifically, a singer or artist, inspire you to be a singer? I
mean, Julie Andrews. Again, my experience was so limited to like what was happening in the world. that I did watch the movie musicals, and basically, and I still maintain that Julie Andrews is one of the best singers and singing actors of all time.
Yeah.
So Sound of Music and, Mary Poppins. And then I think I was 12 and I got the VHS of West Side Story.
Oh, yeah.
And that was another aha moment. I mean, I must have watched that hundreds of times. I mean, my friends would come over and that's what we did. We watched West Side Story. So those were my strongest influences, I guess. And it's still my favorite musical, West Side Story. It's just...
So how did you discover opera? I mean, I love West Side Story, and that's actually one of my favorites.
Yeah. So
Into the opera world.
I know. How did I get into opera world?
Somebody say you need the technique, you need to solidify, your...
So yeah, there was basically I was in my middle school singing group or musicals, and there was the man that was in charge of it, and my mom had said to him, well, Minda really wants to do this, and so he's like, well, there's one voice teacher here. Yeah. And so she doesn't take kids, and at that time I think I was 14, and so we called her, and I had to audition, and I sang Feed the Birds from, what is that from, Mary Poppins? What? Feed the birds, da-da. It's like that's the weirdest. That's the weirdest song to sing. I don't even know how I thought of that. But anyway, she was a Juilliard trained soprano, and so she trained me in opera because that's what she did, and I was very operatically inclined. I knew nothing about it, but that she was the one teacher, and I trusted her and loved her, and so that's how I started. And I didn't stop, basically. She taught me Italian, and
oh, wow. Yeah.
We started, right away.
Cool. So she got you right in, and then she said, keep going, apply for schools and do this.
Yeah, she helped me with all the college auditions, and she was the reason I even knew about Juilliard or any of these schools. We worked on our Italian arias and everything together, so...
Did you always have the other styles pulling you, like while you were studying?
Always. I always did. I played guitar, and I sang a lot of folk and country music. I like to write music. And I always, of course, loved the musicals. I mean, I loved West Side Story, and I would just sit and play that and sing that. But the operatic training lended itself to those classic Broadway songs,
right?
So the training helped me in that way, and that was, I think, Les Mis came out about that time, but the belting style, that was sort of newish in like the 80s, 90s, like not newish, but like it was. So I didn't really know how to do that. I tried to do it. I didn't really know how to do it.
You have a teacher that said, don't do it at all?
She didn't say don't do it, but she did not know how to teach me that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have anybody else at that time to help me. So it's just kind of like me screaming in my bathroom, like, I hope I'm on my own.
I totally get you. Yes.
Yes.
Funny. Cool. So what about...
Oh, wait. I think at this moment I'm supposed to sing.
Oh, yes. I want you to sing... Yes, could you share with us something?
Yes, so so I was gonna sing something that is that ties the operatic and the musical theater world together. I don't actually sing opera anymore. I don't know if we're gonna talk about that later. I don't professionally sing opera, but I do sing classical musical theater. Mm-hmm. So I was gonna sing What's the Use of Wondering from Carousel, and I'm just gonna pull up the lyrics in case I forget it. I actually did Carousel at Lincoln Center, and Kelly O'Hara played Julie Jordan, this role. Awesome. I was in the ensemble.
How cool, though.
And she said about this song, she feels like it's one of the most underappreciated songs in the canon, and I would agree. It's also very sad. So it's not an uplifting moment right now, but
Okay.
oh, and that show that I did, Carousel, it's on PBS, so everyone can watch it. And Kelly O'Hara and Jesse Mueller played Carrie, and their performances, and a lot of other amazing actors but their performances are exquisite in terms of the singing actors.
I had no idea that you were in the ensemble because I've heard that.
Oh yeah, I had red hair.
That is so cool.
I had red hair, so maybe you didn't recognize me, but that was me.
Yeah.
Okay, so should I just start it?
Yes. Whenever you're ready.
This is a karaoke track on YouTube, so just bear with me, everybody.
I'm used to singing with those too.
Okay, here we go. What's the use of wondering if he's good or if he's bad, or if you like the way he wears his hat? Oh, what's the use of wondering if he's good or if he's bad? He's your feller and you love him. That's all there is to that. Common sense may tell you that the ending will be sad, and now's the time to break and run away. But what's the use of wondering if the ending will be sad? He's your feller and you love him. There's nothing more to say. Something made him the way that he is, whether he's false or true, and something gave him the things that are his. One of those things is you. So when he wants your kisses, you will give them to the lad, and anywhere he leads you, you will walk, and anytime he needs you, you'll go running there like mad. You're his girl, and he's your feller, and all the rest is told.
Oh,
I'm not going to do the second verse or whatever.
oh, it's beautiful. Your voice.
Well, it's so, when you, to me, still to sing that kind of lyric, that even though it's slightly dated, it's just not. But, when the lyrics and the music is that good, you really just get out of the way.
So classic. So yes. I know.
Yeah.
And you're so in it too, the words, which the actress in you, just shines through.
Thank you. That took a while. As you know, when you're, at least in my experience, I think it's changing, but I never took an acting class in opera school.
Yeah.
I didn't. I did sort of, but it was like, be a chair, or I don't know. It was very weird.
Yeah.
And it was more presentational. It's only been when I've really started studying acting, which I didn't start until I was 30 years old. And now, with all the film and TV stuff that I've started going there.
Yeah.
And it's just it's so much fun to explore that as a singer.
Yes.
Because I feel like it was a part of me. I was just so focused on my voice.
I think vocal programs need much more of the acting element. I agree. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I
And
mean,
finding yourself in the work.
yes.
One of my big issues with opera was that somebody had already done it and had probably done it perfect. You know, with the legacy of opera singers, it's like I just felt like I was always in somebody else's legacy because it's an art of perfection, really. Truly, it's an art of perfection. And with acting, I feel like there's more gray, like there's more room to be imperfect in a way. And with opera, I just always felt so much pressure to be perfect, at least vocally and musically and technically.
I think also depends on the teacher, the school, the
It
way
does.
they teach it and present it. And there's, I mean, but that there definitely is that you have to master the technique and
Yeah, it's technique first.
that's
Yeah.
also things that you have to master. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, definitely technique first. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, so but beautiful. And then so from opera, so you branched out from opera. So you did that for a while and then you felt that cabaret was speaking to you and then you started writing your own show.
Well,
How did that evolve?
I
Curious.
mean, that makes it sound sort of like I had a choice, but I'll be very clear. I wasn't working as an opera singer like I thought that I was going to work, or that I had trained to work. It just didn't come easily to me. And looking back now, it's because I was never meant to be an opera singer and I was really on the wrong path. And if I go back to even when I was 14 years old, my teacher, this Juilliard soprano, played me a recording of an opera singer, Cecilia Bartoli, who I love, singing one of the Italian art songs and arias, and I started crying because I was like, I don't want to sound like that. I want to sound like Julie Andrews.
Right.
So even then, I knew it wasn't my path, but I didn't know what else to do. So I forged ahead as an opera singer. But when I graduated from graduate school, I realized very quickly that that wasn't my path. And I worked on the cruise ships but then I came back and I was like, now what am I going to do? And I had no clue. So I wrote a show. So I created my own work because nobody else was hiring me. So I was like, well, I'll just create my own damn show then.
Good for you. That's awesome. Good for you.
Yes. And actually Charles created it with me. Our mutual friend who is a pianist and music director. I think I spent $500. I went over to his apartment in Jersey City and we put together and wrote a show called How to Find True Love on a Cruise Ship because I met my now husband on that cruise ship. And we produced it ourselves, and it ended up being a hit by the grace of God, really. And it just ended up being really successful. And I toured the country with that show, and then I later got hired to perform that show as a headliner on the cruise ships. So I got to go back to the cruise ships, but instead of being in the big production shows, I did the show that I had just written myself because I had no other work. So
You created that opportunity.
I created it, and that is why I'm also, and I know we'll talk about this later, but I'm a huge advocate for artists creating their own work because the industry is so difficult as it is. So if I had not created that work, I would not have the career that I do now or any real career, because I would have been waiting, for somebody to knock on the door for me. And for whatever reason, that just wasn't happening for me. And still, I still don't wait for auditions and things to just happen because, it's just a horrible feeling. I'm sure, as you know, as an artist, to sit there and wait for the phone to ring is like, it's it's not easy. So anyway, yeah, I ended up writing the show, and then ended up loving the work of being in the small venues, connecting to an audience, and the creative work of putting together your own show, not having to do what somebody else.
So personal and you're
So personal, yeah. So I ended up doing quite a bit of cabaret, and I worked with some of the best. My teacher and mentor is Marilyn May, who is, if you don't know who she is, please look her up. She's one of the last living great interpreters of the American Songbook, and she directed my show, and she's taught me so much about connecting with an audience. And I was fortunate to be in New York at that time, and I got to sing in all the big clubs and the jazz clubs, and totally different world for me. And then my Carnegie Hall debut, which you mentioned, I have to let everybody know that I booked that gig not because like they were doing Handel's Messiah and I was hired to be the soloist. I booked that gig because of my work as a cabaret artist. And I was invited to do a Jerome Kern tribute and to sing in it because I was a cabaret artist. So that just to anyone listening who like thinks like, oh, I'll never get to Carnegie Hall, or I'm never like the path. I always wanted to sing at Carnegie Hall. I thought it would be as an opera singer, but that's not how I got there. And if I had not created my own work just out of nothing and $500 with my best friend, a pianist, I never would have gotten that way.
Wow.
Because I wasn't getting hired as an opera singer in that way as I thought that I would. So that's just my little motivation for people to find your own path, even if it's not what you think it's going to look like. Because
then you created so many opportunities for yourself. You know.
Yeah. Sorry, I went on like a little speech there. I cut you off.
And to work on with your best friend too. I'm sure that collaboration process was fun.
Yeah, so fun, and so rewarding. Yeah.
So great. So could you sing something for us?
Oh yeah. And actually, this is funny. So this is totally different. This is from an album, a jazz-inspired album. I'm not a jazz singer, but I do love studying it. That actually Charles produced.
Nice.
And this is all in the, I'm going to sing Something's Gotta Give. And the album is all the songs, because he's a lyricist, the songs of Johnny Mercer, who grew up in the South very similarly to how I did. So I will do that now. Okay, here we go. When an irresistible force such as you meets an old immovable object like me, you can bet as sure as you live, something's gotta give, something's gotta give, something's gotta give. When an irrepressible smile such as yours warms an old implacable heart such as mine, don't say no because I insist. Somewhere, somehow, someone's gonna be kissed. So on guard, who knows what the fates have in store from their vast, mysterious skies. I try hard, ignoring those lips I adore, but how long can anyone try? Fight, 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 fight it with all of our might. Chances are some heavenly star-spangled night we'll find out as sure as we live. Some's gotta give, some's gotta give, some's gotta give. Little instrumental break there. So this is a track from my album. And these are my live New York musicians. So on guard, who knows what the fates have in store from their vast, mysterious skies. I try hard, ignoring those lips I adore, but how long can anyone try? Fight, 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 fight it with all of our might. Chances are some heavenly star-spangled night we'll find out as sure as we live. Some's gotta give, some's gotta give, some's gotta give. We'll find out as sure as we live. Some's gotta give, something's gotta give, something's gotta give.
That's so great. So good. Such a good song, and I love your version.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so we I did that show at the Metropolitan Room, which is now since closed.
Yes.
But then we recorded that album in one day. We just recorded it all live. And you know, when you get the best New York musicians, then you can do that. I think my voice cracked there at the end, so sorry everybody. That's a live. And sitting in a desk chair.
Still sounds amazing.
I do miss that. Like it's also hard to sing that style when they're not actually in the room with you, because you you're like, wait, I'm behind. Wait, I'm ahead. What's happening?
It's so cool how you can sing classical in one way and then switch to the jazz. It's fun. It's fun to be able to do different things.
It is, and I think it contributes to being a full artist. Yeah. I don't know. I read another quote, or I listened to someone who was like, "Art is art is art is art."
Yeah.
And to me, it's all the same. Well, it just whether I'm painting or drawing or singing or playing piano, it's like it's all contributing to being a whole artist.
Yes, you're so much.
Plus, it's a challenge. Singing jazz is really, really hard when you come from an opera background. I had no idea. Whoa.
Did you ever have formal training in jazz style?
Never. I tried to do it in college, but they wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, I want to sing jazz. I'll be a jazz singer. I missed my calling. And then I actually went to work with these musicians, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like groove, like what is groove? Like harmonies, like scatting. I'm never even going to try. But I can appreciate it and do my version of it. But I would never claim to be a jazz singer, because that's like a whole world of amazing.
You are. Just say you are, and you are.
It's true. Yes.
So tell us. I mean, I have so many questions for you because there's so much of value that I find so interesting. You're now doing acting and television.
Oh my God, yeah.
We have moved into that world too.
You're doing so that's again back to my story of creating your own work. When I was when I did the show directed by Marilyn May, my voice teacher actually brought an agent to that show. And again, this is a show that I created, that I paid for myself. And after the show, the agent said, and she represents a lot of singers as well, but she said, yeah, you're a fabulous singer, but you really need to be on television. And I was like, what? I mean, so God, universe, I was like, what? And at that time I was probably 36 years old. And I was like, I just sang for 90 minutes and you're telling me that I should go be an actor. And this story is super emotional, but I ended up signing, she's actually a manager. I started working with this manager, and I had no idea. I took acting class, but I had no idea about any sort of on-camera work. And she got me an audition for Gotham on Fox, and it was my first TV audition. And I went to the casting director's office. I think it was downtown Wall Street area. And I didn't even know when to start. I didn't know what, and I looked right in the camera and said the lines in such a bad way. And the casting director was like, okay, let's just do that again. So I took a breath, and I realized oh, you shouldn't just look right into the camera. You should look at the reader, whatever. I booked that job.
Just like that.
My first audition for a major network show out the gate. I mean, people spend
your calling.
It was God. I mean, truly, I believe that it was God saying that this is your path.
Wow.
I believe that in my bones. And yes, I was already 36 years old and had been singing for 15, 20 years. But it was just such a major gift and wake up call, and I didn't even know that world existed. I didn't even know that I could act on that level. I didn't know that I could still at that age be hired to be an actor. I mean, that sounds ignorant now because the actors are every age, but I just thought, no, I'm a singer.
Right.
I'm always that's what I do, and that's who I am. And then this just blew the ceiling off, which is and yes, I am a very spiritual person in that I believe that we don't fully ever know what's best for us. We try to control it, but when you just sort of let go and go with it, amazing things happen. So that was my experience with TV. And now I've since done 3 or 4 major network shows and 3 short films. I was the lead in a web series
Could people find you if you've sent links in the chat maybe, or I don't know?
Yes. You can find me. My Instagram is @Minda Larsen, and my website is mindalarsen.com. So, and I have
we can include it afterwards too if we can.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I have my reel, but I just didn't think that was interesting for people. But anyway, it's been acting. I feel saved my life. I really feel like acting saved my life. I feel like it's always who I was.
Wow.
And I just was constantly sort of told, like, but you're a singer, but you're a singer. And even from a young age, I was like, but I want to be Julie Andrews.
Huh.
Like, I want to be, you know, like,
Resonated with you. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm really thankful for that. And it's just, actually, it's happening right now. I mean, I booked FBI Most Wanted during COVID. I shot that in October.
Amazing.
I had 6 COVID tests. I mean, it was a lot, but I did it. Like it's they have found a way to keep functioning, and I do several auditions from home a week, and I don't book them all, but
I'm a working artist during this pandemic.
yeah. Well, in whatever way that looks like. I mean, I'm trying to be. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really, really. I love it. I love it. I don't know what it'll end up becoming, but I hope that I can, keep doing it for as long as I can.
Oh my gosh. It's your path. You just keep going, girl. You just
Thank you.
keep going. That's
All we can do. And I just said to myself the other day, like, well, I still want to do this. And the day that I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do it anymore, then Minda, then you have to stop. But as long as you want to keep doing it, you just keep doing it,
For sure.
Yeah.
So awesome that New York is not completely shut down, that there's still stuff going on.
Yeah. The film and TV has figured it out.
Good.
Or figuring it out, at least. Yeah.
All the COVID tests and all the things you have to do, people are still working, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're doing other stuff too. You're teaching. I know you're teaching from home, right?
I'm teaching 100% from home. I was teaching, of course, 100% in person, and I have had to pivot. And I learned how to, do Zoom and all the things. But I'm really, really thankful for my students and thankful that I've been able to work. Because
such successful students too on Broadway, like doing all.
I do. I have extraordinary students. And you mentioned Caroline or Change. My student was going to play the young boy, the lead in that, and they were in their final dress rehearsals last year, and they didn't get to open. So his stuff is like still backstage.
Wow.
So I really hope that he gets to do that, because we worked so hard and he deserves that. So
I recently saw a little clip of you teaching this really adorable child, this boy singing Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah,
like early Michael.
My students and I have been in this together because we started out, I'm so used to students coming in the studio. Like, I've got a Broadway audition, I have a television audition, I have this, I have that. And, for months now, I get online with them and I'm like, what are we working on? And they're like, nothing. And that's hard. It's hard for me and it's hard for them. And I'm like, okay, like, so we are just learning songs, and I'm like learning all these new ways to teach and more technical stuff. And like, yeah, so he's doing like Michael Jackson. And then I had another little boy who's only 13. I'm like, now you're learning Italian art songs. Awesome. So I like went back to and he's like singing opera and he's good at it and it challenges him. But to keep them challenged and focused and stimulated, it's difficult. And I know anyone with kids or students that's watching can relate. It's like, it's hard.
It is hard. Yeah. So, and what else so you're also editing right now? You're doing,
well, I'm writing, I guess sort of editing. I write, I'm a contributor to Classical Singer magazine. And
I've read that for years.
Yeah, that was like our Bible. Yeah. So, well, years ago, I started writing just on my husband would work on Saturday nights, so I would like just sit at home in the apartment and I started just writing down like my thoughts and frustrations and realities as a performing artist in New York. And basically all the stuff that I had learned that was never taught to me. The real life stuff, the mindfulness stuff, the creating your own work stuff, the, following your passion. If you really love acting, like maybe you should take an acting class, even though people think you should sing opera, like listening to your inner guidance, trusting God, like that kind of stuff. I started writing all this down and somebody was working on my website and I was like, I have all these articles I've written. And she's like how many? And I was like, I don't know, 20. And she's like, you need to put that on your website. Like and I was like, who's going to read that? Like, who cares? So I wrote an article called "Is It All Worth It?"
I read that.
about like the realities of this life, and I put it up on my own website, and it got shared like 700 times, and it
Amazing.
had thousands of views, and I was like, wow, something about this real talk is really resonating with people. So I just like I did Classical Singer was the first magazine that I reached out to, and I didn't even have a contact. I just did like info at Classical Singer. Again, just letting people know that if you have an instinct, to trust it and just try it. You never know. And they picked it up, and they've published every article ever since. And
Wow.
you know, some of them need some editing and whatever, but it's been amazing, and it's been a whole creative outlet that I wasn't utilizing before. And
Writing, that's right. That's amazing.
writing, yeah, who guessed writing, and but
Sorry.
writing about the performing arts, and in a really, and if anyone reads these articles, you'll see that it's really real talk about how hard it is, about how you're not going to learn this stuff in school.
Writing, it must have been very therapeutic for you,
I guess so. I guess I needed it.
right? But then how it's been helping other people, how much you've been able to really help people with. That's amazing.
I hope so. And I've really become passionate about helping young artists, you know, instead of like pulling up the ladder, but really like, hey, if you can do this stuff, you're not going to have to suffer and struggle as long as I did. Because I really did.
Yeah, you didn't have any really someone guiding you.
Yeah. And, you know, I was hard. I worked 10,000 jobs and hustled. And I really, mostly, I really just felt like I wasn't good enough a lot of the time, until I mean, we all struggle with that, right? Whether you're an artist or not, we
Being in
all.
New York and being a little
It's
fish.
hard.
You know, yeah.
It's hard. So, yeah. And then since then, it was a great moment. The professor of classical voice at NYU contacted me, and he's like, nobody's talking about this. Come speak to these undergraduates. And I did. And I have since, you know, just kept that up through the writing, but also I speak at universities, and not about how to sing or how to act or any of that, but how to survive and how to thrive, basically, as an artist. Only based on my own experience. It's all my opinion. Nothing that I'm saying today or ever is more than that. But
Now you should write an article about how to survive as a singer during a pandemic, or as a.
yeah, I think I've written quite a few of those actually so far.
So we should read that. I want to read those.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, as best as you can survive during the pandemic.
Yeah, and give advice to how about all those people starting off their careers right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think and I've talked about it a lot tonight, but you know, I really encourage everyone. My number one thing is to be yourself and to trust yourself, because I feel like when you're trusting your deep
Yes.
Instinct, you're really trusting God and what is available to you, which is sometimes so much greater than we even imagine. And I know that sounds like really easy, like, oh, be yourself. It was really, really hard for me, and I had a lot of help. I paid a lot of therapists and coaches and did a lot of praying, and so I think that's my real advice, is like, really take care of yourself and figure out who that is as an artist. And if that means, like, you know, in anything, if that means you're also a writer, or you want to write a screenplay, or you know, record a jazz album even though you're an opera singer, or write your own show, or dye your hair pink, or, you know, move to a new city that's maybe not New York, but you just really need to live somewhere that's close to a beach. You know, I think that those are all things, desires, I think are the voice of God telling you, you know, sort of helping steer you. So you know, I don't regret, because it got me to where I am, but I listened to everybody else for so many years, and I didn't listen to myself.
Now it's time to honor you, right?
Yeah, it's honor you. And even during a pandemic, or especially during a pandemic, you know, there is art to be made, and your voice is valid, and all those things that sound so cliche, but I truly believe it, because we have to, right? I mean, so even if it's, you know, just sharing on social media, or if it's spending an hour every night, like writing your novel, or I think my point is, like, keep creating in your own authentic way. Whatever that looks like, and then, you know, leave the rest up to the universe. And yeah.
Totally. I like that. Just surrender, right? Put it out there and then just.
And you're doing that with this, even like with moments like this, connecting with other artists, and you following an impulse to like, hey, I want to help my friends and other artists and reach like that. It's so valid. It's actually, it's not just like good enough. It's like everything.
Oh,
truly. So I'm like getting on my soapbox a little bit, but
thank you. Well, I enjoy it, and I'm having such a good time. And
well, thank you for doing, and for, and like you said, like it's new to you and you learned a skill, and like I think that would be my advice to everybody. Yeah. You play guitar now?
I'm starting to. I'm
yes, girl.
A week, and as much as I can get practice in between the Mondays,
Kids in
with everything else going on. But yeah,
there you go. I mean, that's it.
Why not pick up a new skill? Hey,
absolutely.
So, learning how to run my studio.
I mean, and all that being said, like you don't have to do. Like I don't want people that just don't
pressure to do something.
Yes, you don't have to.
Life is overwhelming enough for many people. So.
Exactly. And sometimes it's like you can just live in the day, and that is a major accomplishment.
Yeah,
like
for a walk in the fresh air.
Right. Yeah. Right. Spend time, connecting with loved ones, read a book. Like that's all just as valid.
Read and meditate.
Absolutely. I mean, yesterday my goal was just make it to bedtime.
Yeah.
So like
goal.
Just make it to bedtime and like just get through the day. So I'm not diminishing what this has been like, what this is like, but
yes,
one day at a time.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Before you leave, you have to sing one more time. We have we have to hear that voice one more time.
This is okay, so this is not a song that I would probably do anywhere professionally, but it's by one of my favorite composers, Stephen Sondheim, and it's actually, I think, my favorite of his work. And this is I Remember, and I'm choosing it because it's actually, if I'm telling it correctly, it's told through the lens of somebody who's stuck in a department store. It's very strange. Oh. It's like a mannequin or something, and she can't go outside.
Reminds me of that
she used to be able to go outside, but then she became a mannequin or something. So anyway, she's stuck indoors. And she's looking at the world and remembering it, but all she can reference the world to is things in her physical world, which are indoors. So she's like remembering what the outside world looks like, but can only compare it to things that are inside. And you'll hear that in the lyric. And I just think, oh my God, it just is so what we're all going through right now. Like we remember what the world used to be like, but we're still referencing it to like our reality right now.
But yeah, this is right.
So I don't know if you guys want to pull up the lyrics because they're just so brilliant, but this is I Remember by Stephen Sondheim. I remember sky, it was blue as ink, or at least I think. I remember sky, I remember snow, soft as feathers, sharp as thumbtacks, coming down like lint, and it made you squint when the wind would blow, and ice like vinyl on the streets, cold as silver, white as sheets, rain like strings, and changing things like leaves. I remember leaves, green as spearmint, crisp as paper. I remember trees, bare as coat racks, spread like broken umbrellas, and parks and bridges, ponds and zoos, I remember days, or at least I try. But as years go by, they're a sort of haze, and the bluest ink isn't really sky. And at times I think I would gladly die for a day of sky. Thank you.
Oh, those lyrics too.
Oh.
I love Sondheim.
And at times I think I would gladly die for a day of sky.
Yes. I'm going to start listening to that song now more.
You gotta sing it. You gotta sing it.
I actually don't really, I've heard it before, but I never really got into it. And now you just totally turned me on to the song. So.
I'll look forward to your version.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Well, thank you. And to all our listeners, thank you for watching this evening.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes. And tune in again with me next week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Tune in with Talya.
Thank you, everybody. Mwah.